In this video, you will learn how to build a powerful Ionic Angular application with authentication using Supabase. What's up, Simonics, and welcome back to a new tutorial. Today, we're building a full-blown real-time chat application with Ionic Angular and Supabase. And this is important because we're gonna use all the authentication features from Supabase to register users, to log in users, to use magic link authentication where users just need an email, and in the end, even make this work with native iOS and Android application using Capacitor and using a cool trick with a custom URL skill. So definitely stick around until the end for that little trick. On top of that, we will integrate all the necessary features. We're gonna build a login page, a registration page. We're gonna handle the errors and use a cool UI with Ionic components. We're gonna build an inside area, protect that area, give also access to unauthenticated users on some parts of the application, and build out groups and chat messages and even see those messages in real time. All of this is possible because we're using Supabase for our backend, and Supabase is also sponsoring this video. If you don't know it, Supabase is the open source Firebase alternative with pretty much all the functionalities you need. You can get started completely for free and you can instantly integrate a SQL database, you get cloud functions, you get triggers, webhooks, everything, really everything out of the box immediately, and you're gonna see how we can use this easily to protect our application and to build an authentication system for any kind of Ionic Angular app. If you want to follow along, link to the written version and also to all the code on GitHub right below the video. So check that out, probably next to the video, so you can follow and then enjoy the creation of our real-time client with Ionic Angular authentication using Supabase. Alright, let's get started with our application. And first of all, you're gonna head over to supabase.com where you can create your application. You can sign in with GitHub usually. You might have to create an organization at this point. I think that's the default. And I'm gonna hit new project within my tutorials organization. I'm gonna call this auth video, it doesn't really matter. For the database password, I'm just gonna generate one and then I'm gonna copy this over to make sure I can save it somewhere. Where do I put this? I don't know. Let's put it here. And then you can select the region. I'm gonna use with Frankfurt. I'm gonna use the free plan and hit create project. This is everything we need to do to set up a simple Supabase project with authentication, with database, with the SQL database, with everything included. At the same time, because this takes like a few minutes, you can already run the installation command for your Ionic application. So I've already did this before. Let me use this. This is exactly what I ran. Ionic start super auth using the blank template, and we're using Angular for our framework today. But of course, you could also use Vue, you could use React. Everything would work with Supabase. Simply because we can now also install the Supabase JS client package, and this will help us to integrate Supabase into our Angular project or any kind of JavaScript project. Now, because we want to create a cool chat application, we're gonna need some additional pages. So let's run this. We're actually generating 4 pages. We're generating a login page, a register page, a groups page, and a messages page. And we can actually run this in one batch. Then we also need 2 services. One service will handle all the authentication, registration, login, keeping the user state. And the second one will simply be there to interact with the SQL tables of database. I like to structure the application so we can separate that logic. Finally, we're gonna add one more thing to our project, which is a guard. We're gonna talk about guards in the end. Just a quick word, a guard is used with Angular to prevent access to certain pages. And by default, we can quickly check this out. It will just return true, so we can safely use it already in our project. And with that, we actually have all the files in place. And if we now go back here, we should see that, yeah, I think our project is ready. That means what we need to do now is to define the schema for our tables. So let's move over to the table editor. We should see that there's actually nothing inside. I can also zoom in a bit more. So let's go to the table editor. We can do this from the web if we wanted to, but of course we already know SQL. So let's go to the SQL editor instead and run a new query. Now, I'm prepared a few snippets. So first of all, we're gonna create our 3 basic tables. We're going to create a users table simply because the authentication that happens with Supabase is an internal private table. So all the user data, like the email and password, is stored in Supabase and we can't really access that. But usually you want to have access to the user ID, email, probably also captured address, birthday, username, whatever, and therefore we create a users table. In the groups table, users can create a group with a title. We have their public users ID reference, so we know who created the group, and then we also add a timestamp automatically. And messages is pretty much the same. We also have user ID. I could probably use user ID in here as well instead of creator, but I could have done this. But additionally, we also have the text of the message, the group ID in which the message was sent and also created. So let's hit run. I think I'm covering this with my head, is right here. So hit run and we should have 3 tables. Great. Now we can do another query on our table. And what we want to do is we want to turn on the row level security to make sure the data within our database is secure, because otherwise people could easily access this from outside without being authenticated. And we want to control the behavior. So we're going to do this, and then after enabling the row level security, we can create the policies. So let me bring in the policies. They look just like this. So if this is a bit fast, of course, code is linked below this video. You can find it on GitHub, and you can also find the written tutorial on the Supabase blog. Now, what we need are a few policies. So users can read user emails. This is just to display like an email in the application, because otherwise we couldn't actually resolve that information, and everyone can do this. Of course, if you store sensitive data in the users table, your policies in the future in a different app might be different. For groups, everyone can see groups. This is the cool thing. We're gonna have like different steps in our application. So everyone can see groups, but only authenticated users can actually create or delete groups. This is our plan. And for messages, we want only authenticated users. So we have this free level where free people can see something. Then we have the authenticated level where they can create something and where they can also read messages and create messages. So let's run this as well. Okay, great. Now there's, I think, 2 more queries that we need. Number 1, we need a little function that runs automatically. So we're creating a trigger on auth user created, which means a user creates an account for our application. And after that user is inserted into the authentication table of Supabase, we're gonna execute our procedure handle new users, and that's defined up here. So we started reading down here and now we're here, which is a function that simply inserts into our public users table the ID and email. So this automatically creates the entry in our table, which is a pretty cool way to handle this. Did we already run this? No, we didn't. Yeah, no, we did. Finally, there's one more thing. Our table, our messages table is, of course, this is a chat group, and we want to see a new message coming in right when it arrives. So for this, we need to enable the real-time functionalities of a table, and we can do this, or we need to do this by first of all dropping the publication if it exists, Supabase real-time, and then recreating it with no tables and only for insert. And then add the tables we want to that publication. So in our case, we only want the table messages to be added to the publication. That means for groups and users, there's no real-time functionality. Yeah, we could do this for groups as well, but it would make our app a bit more complicated. And well, I thought I'd leave at least something for you in the end, so you can continue once we're done. Okay, again, all of this, all the queries, you can find them on the GitHub page or the written version. And now if we check out the table editor, we should see exactly our tables. with the definition that we came up with. And you can even check out the role level security right here. So this brings us to the authentication policies tab, and you can see all the rules and the policies that we defined. On top of that, we want to allow users to sign up, so we can check this out under authentication settings, and you can change all the settings you want in here. Of course, we want them to allow users sign up. We don't really need to change this. This will automatically work in our case. You can also enable captcha protection, automatic reuse detection. We're going to talk about redirect URLs in the end. For now, we can just leave it like it is. And by default, the email provider is already enabled. That means we do get a confirmation email when the user signs up. We have a min length for the password of 6. We need to respect this with our form. And of course, you could add tons of different providers here. For example, phone, you could use Twilio as a provider, and I think we're gonna do something, a little tutorial about this in the future, but everything else is just following the default procedure of how you log in with a certain service. So usually you have like an API key or an, for Facebook, like a Facebook client ID. For Apple, you also have the service ID and a secret key. It's always pretty much the same how you implement these services. Feel free to connect whatever you want to your application. For us, we're gonna stick to email. So basic email and password sign up, and also magic link authentication. So those are the two cases that we gonna handle. But since everything is already in place, I think we can pretty much skip all of this. Confirm your sign up. Let's do this. We can change our email template. That's pretty cool as well. Your magic link is ready. Let's just do a little bit of change in here. I'm gonna set it like this and hit save. And I think for my confirm sign up, let's use the pray hands and see if we can change this. Please. Oh, that was definitely a mistake. Please confirm your sign up made. There we go. We're gonna see if we get these emails in the end. I do hope so. We're gonna figure this out. Okay, finally we can head over to the settings, because we're gonna use those settings in our app now. To connect our Ionic application to Supabase, or any application to Supabase, we need the API keys. We need the project URL, so hit copy, and then move over to Visual Studio Code, or whatever editor you're using. Go into the environment, and let's use Supabase URL and our URL. And then we also need the Supabase key, which is right here. So make sure you're using the public key and not the service role secret key. If you're using this key, you're exposing your application to a lot of potential issues, because with this key, you can do everything on the database. This key has the ability to bypass role level security, and so you don't want to include it in your front end project at all costs. Okay, once we get that, we can head over to our application, I think. We can already run this, right? Let's do this. Ionic surf and off to the races. We can close the environment for now. We don't really need this. We could go to the app routing for now, since this will still display. I think we're gonna use Chrome for debugging today. I don't know why, but I really don't like Arc for debugging my applications. We're gonna use Chrome today. So there we go. This is our application. Nice, looks good. Looks like an application. It starts with a home page, and we directly go ahead and remove the home page, because this is not what we want. We want our first page to be the login page. So I'm gonna make the login page the default here. I'm gonna add the redirect. Actually, we don't need the redirect to home, since we don't have a home anymore. We have a register page, that's right. We have a groups page, that's right. For the messages page, we actually want to make them like you select a group, and then you go to the group and see the messages. So this should be like groups/, and then the ID of a group, so we can retrieve all the information for that group. And oh no, do I got the spell checker for TS files now as well? Oh, come on. Oh no. What is this? That's gonna be interesting. I just installed the spell checker this morning. But hey, whatever, we're gonna see. All right, for the login page, let's do a bit of UI here. Page, CSS, module, page, and then we will have to use the authentication service in a second. But let's begin with a login module. We're gonna include the reactive forms module so we can build a reactive form. Then we can already close the login module. That was a pretty easy edit to begin with, right? And now we can go to our login page TS and create this reactive form. So let's inject the form builder, and we're gonna inject a few other things. So we definitely need the auth service. We're gonna have to take care of that in a second as well. And we certainly wanna have something like a loading controller from Ionic, not a controller, but a controller. Loading controller from Ionic Angular, and also can we format this a bit nice, better, the alert controller, so in case we hit a problem we're gonna display it with the alert controller. And then finally we probably need to route the user forward, so let's include the Angular router as well. So to create our form, since Angular 14, I think, we have strongly typed forms, and we can create them by defining our form actually here at the top level of our class and not inside the ng on init. So we can now use the form builder, this.form builder. I'm gonna make this a non-nullable form. This is just a minor thing, but it's pretty cool. If you reset the form, the fields will not go back to null. They will just go back to the default value that you define in here. So let's say I'm gonna call this simon@devdactic.com. I'm just gonna give this the default value. And of course, validators dot required. And we're copying this over. Password, not gonna, oh well, let's just use something and then required. Okay, this is our form. To make things a bit easier, we can also define little getter functions. So I like to do this. They turn red because it needs to be before the ng on it. So otherwise we would have to use this from our HTML, and that makes life usually complicated. So defining getter for the controls makes it easier to finally show some error messages or handle all these things. So then we need a bunch of functions, but we don't really have them right now. So let's leave that open. So we can finally move into creating the view. So let's go to login page and let's call this super chat. I'm gonna use the color primary. But in fact, this turns this to blue. So let me see. I previously used a different color for this. So I used a cool green, and I definitely want to have this color. Where do I find this? In my theme, right? This was my variables previously. So I'm gonna copy this. Again, you can find the colors as well included in the repository. Oh, this is the global. Oops, sorry, don't want to replace the global, I want to replace the theme. Nice, better. Now we have a nice green Supabase chatty header. That feels better. Okay, on our screen, what we need is a form. So let's wrap that into an Ion card. Ion card content, there we go. We can actually close the debugging so we got a bit more space here. There we go. So we do have the card. Now we need the form. The form will be submitted, and then we call the login function. And it's connected to the form group with the name credentials. This was the form we just defined. And now we just need our controls, and then we're already done. So let's put them into an Ion item, Ion label. We're gonna use the position stacked. You could also use floating if you want, or stacked floating. Fixed is, I think, the other one. At some point you'll just know like all the values for slots and positions of Ionic. As well, of course, we need an Ion input. Let's just see how that looks. Okay, we got your email. Let's try this actually. If I would use floating, it says your email and then it floats to the top. And if I use fixed, it should be in front of the field, right? And then it's here. Yeah, but stacked is definitely like stacked or floating. I switch between those two. Okay, we're gonna set this to type email and also the input mode to email. This will be important once you run your application on a real native device like iOS or Android, because then it shows the actual or a different keyboard. It shows a keyboard with an @ sign. Anyway, do we need a placeholder? Yeah, probably like whatever. John@supabase.co. I don't think that email exists. If it does, sorry, John. Form control name is email. This is our email field. Okay. So, yeah, actually, we do have a value in here since I defined that value. And we do have this red message because it's invalid. However, we can do better. We can include an Ion note in the item. This is new. So there's an error slot. Since I think Ionic 6.5.6, come on, I got confused with the versions as well. And you can display some text in there. So if this becomes invalid, we see the error message right here. So of course we want to say, please insert your email. And we only want to display this. So ngIf. If the email control is actually dirty or the email control is touched. This is important because otherwise the error can show up even while the field is empty. And of course, if the email actually has some errors. You could do this even more detail and check which error, like required min-length email, exists. But in our case, we're just gonna go with this here. Looks good. Please insert your email. Okay. Because we're lazy, let's just copy the Ion item and let's do a second item. This one will now be the password input. Type password, input mode, text, form control, password, placeholder. I don't know. Do you set a placeholder for text for passwords? I don't think so, right? Then we got password dirty and password touched, and if there are errors, please insert valid password. And so we got 2 fields. Nice. Good start, good start. Now we need a button. Let's put this in here. We could actually, since a recent version, we could have the Ion button outside of the form and connect it with an ID, but I don't really feel that. So let's use type button. No, actually type submit, since we want to trigger the submit action. Let's make this expand block, and let's already put in sign in so we do see it. There we go. Looks cool, looks good. But we probably want to disable it. Yeah, it should certainly be disabled when credentials is there's like, is there an invalid field if credentials invalid? Yes, nice. That works good. Good. I like it. You can also use something like strong to give the button a bit stronger font. Let's see if this works. Yeah, that becomes stronger. Nice, cool. Additionally, we want to have a few other buttons because we're gonna have more functionality like creating an account with a registration page or hitting the forgot password or yeah, well, a bunch of other things. So I'm gonna put these into the, actually it doesn't matter really. I'm gonna put them here. Let me show you. I've just included a bunch of buttons. So with a margin top, it starts. Then we have the register button to create an account, which just links to the register page. So we can click this and go to the register page. We have forgot password. We still need to implement this. We're gonna trigger a little alert. Get magic link will also trigger a little alert with an input, pretty much the same like forgot password. And then we also do have a button to start without account. So we can just go to the groups inside page, which would also work because we've set up all the routing already. And then the user would have the ability to just see the groups like we defined with the row level security. Unauthenticated users can see that information, yes, but they can't add a group, and they also shouldn't be allowed to see the messages screen. But we're gonna take care of this with our authentication logic, and this is what we need to talk about now. We probably just can add the functions quickly. So we got async magic link stuff, and we had async forgot password, something like that, right? Okay, then the login page is actually finished. Oh, I did have some CSS for you in case you like cool login pages. What we can do is we can put a little padding on our Ion cut-in and especially use a background image. So with this little hack here, so if we're setting the CSS variable for the background, we can use a URL like random image from Unsplash. But you can also apply a linear gradient at the same time, which I found pretty cool. So if I remove this, we're gonna see it was a very bright image. And with my gradient, oops, I can make sure that the password here really stands out from the background. I really like this. And also, of course, we got a bit of padding here to start and end, and especially top. We could maybe use 25. I don't know. Well, let's just not get to that level today. Anyway, we need logic for this, and we're going to implement this in the authentication service because we can then reuse all of these things. So what we need in here is, first of all, a connection to Supabase. So we can use Supabase client here. And within the constructor, we're gonna create it. So this.supabase equals create client, which should also come from the Supabase package. And we need to pass in the Supabase URL and a key. And this is, of course, right inside of our environment. So environment dot, not this one, better. But it's a nice reminder. Make sure you also put this information into the production environment. So if you're running a production build, you should of course include the Supabase key and URL as well. But also you could easily have different values for production. So you could have 2 instances from Supabase, one for development, one for production. And then we go, okay, what's the first thing, the URL? Yeah, first URL, then key. That's cool. So this initializes our client. Now we need a bunch of functions. First of all, let's do the easy ones. And we also want to include the private router, so we can automatically bring a user to the outside world. So let's start with this. First of all, sign up. We can use everything from the Supabase authentication package. So the auth package really has tons of functions. Just do dot and check out everything in here. I actually like this more than reading the documentation because this shows me right what we got. So for sign up, we can sign up a user with email and password easily. We can also sign in with password, email and password. What is this? Is this right? It looks credentials. Email, password. Shouldn't it look like this? Is this new? Credentials of the type email and password. Oh yeah, I think it's actually, yeah, it's true. This is like you do it. Anyway, yeah, sign in with password. We got a send password reset, which we just require an email. Sign out, well, we can just also call sign out, which is nice because this removes the token and ends all the connections. And, ooh, we got something here, add all missing imports. Get current user, because once we got a user, I want to keep track of that current user. And this will be an important construct, the current user, because it can be, or it will be a behavior subject. A behavior subject is just a tiny bit different from a regular subject in that it has an initial value. Could we do it otherwise? We could probably use a subject and then, well, yeah, could also work. But anyway, what we're gonna do is we're setting this behavior subject initial value to null, because then we can later filter out in the guard that protects the pages this null value, because this is irrelevant, and instead use the first real value. Might be false. So remember, in JavaScript, null and false are different things. So therefore we can make this separation between null, false, or an actual user. Okay, we can do this, by the way. We can already implement this in our constructor. So what we want to do is we want to listen to Supabase auth on authentication state change. So this gives us an event and the actual session. And then within this block, we can check if the event is equal to, and we see there are a few events. So if the event is equal to signed in, or if the event is equal to token refreshed, because this will be important for our magic link authentication. In those cases, let's just put a login here, set user. I'm gonna set it to whatever data is in there. And then we're gonna call this dot current user next. And we're gonna next it with session dot user with this information. You wanna like this? Okay, that's fine. And in the else case, important, we're gonna set the current user next to false. Don't set it back to null. Not cool. We don't want to do this, since this is again the initial value, and then we will run into a bunch of problems. By the way, I'm using the pink one because it's from my wife, but no problem with that color. But I have like a green one, Supabase. If you want to send me like a green coffee thingy, that would be cool. Okay, there's one problem. If we load that page, this function usually doesn't strike immediately. And if we load a page, like if we display our Ionic application deployed as a website, we definitely want to check this right in the beginning when the application loads. So we're gonna add another function that are called load user. And we're gonna trigger this right here, right in the beginning of our page. And within load user, we will first of all check if this dot current user value is already set. Remember, if it's null, it's not set. If it's anything else, it will be set. So if it's set, we're just gonna return, because then we don't need to run this. This is really just a helper for the other case. So in the other case, we're gonna grab the user by calling this dot Supabase authentication get user. And yes, this is a promise since I think, what's it, Supabase 2? So I think it's 2. It's 2 of the client library. Okay, so if we now do have some data, user data contains user, then once again, our logic follows to set the current user. We're gonna set it to user data. I would really like to have like an if let. I think I said this in pretty much every video. Like if let, like this is what I want. If let user equals this, and then user. That would be really cool. Anyway, maybe in the future of JavaScript. Other case, current user set to false. We don't have an authenticated user yet. Okay, we do have all these functions. There's just 2 more things that I want to include. A function to get the current user ID, because if we want to get the user from the Supabase package, we can do this. For example, this dot Supabase auth get user dot, and you see this is a promise. Now this always makes it problematic. I really kind of hate this when I just want the user ID of the authenticated user and it returns a promise. So therefore, we're just gonna return our current user value ID in here if we do have a user. And finally, we got sign in with email. This is magic link authentication. And this will for now only work on the web. We're gonna later see how to fix this for mobile because we need a specific setup and a little hack, I would say, to actually make this work. But for now, we're gonna leave it like this, and sign in with OTP will work on the web. All right, how long are we into this? 35 minutes or something? Anyway, we got that, and now it becomes a lot easier. Because on our page, what we need to do in here is just call the functionalities from our service. So we're gonna present a loading, and then we call authentication service, sign in. Yeah, this is the login, right? Login with this dot credentials dot get raw value. Otherwise, it will complain, I think, and it needs to be called as a function. Okay. Let's just do it like sometimes like a then block, a good old then block. So in here we also might need an async function because we wanna dismiss the loading first of all, and then if the data has an error, so if there's an error, we're gonna show a little alert. Let's do a little helper function for this, which simply shows an alert. And then we call this dot show alert, login failed data error dot message. Okay, and I think we could actually do this right now. Yeah, login failed, invalid login credentials. Nice, this is exactly what I wanted to see because we don't have a user, so we of course can't log in that user. Now, how do we actually go to the inside area? Well, we could handle this here and see if we got data and no error and then go to the inside area, but we can also just subscribe to our authentication service here, get current user, and then hit that subscribe. And if we do get back, let's use a regular user, not a user object. So if we do have a user, let's say log user on login page. Come on, do more strange characters, Simon. Oh, come on, how many errors can you put into one line? It's ridiculous. This is the router, navigate by URL. Please navigate as whoosh to the inside area groups. And you can also replace the URL because it's like replacing our state. Cool. So we should see that log at some point coming up. However, that point is not today. Not yet. It is today, but not yet, because we don't even have a user yet. So we could do the registration or, come on, let's just quickly finish this. We got just two more things in here, and they're actually pretty easy to implement because both of them are the same, but it's a lot of code, so let me bring in a little snippet. What we want to do is we want to create an alert. Because an alert can actually have an input field with a name email and type email. And then we can access the value of that input field in the handler of a button. So we do define our buttons for the alert on our own. So let's try this already. Forgot password. Oh yeah, this is, sorry. This should definitely go into forgot password. Okay, let's try this. And we got this little dialog. So receive new password, please insert your email. I could now insert my email. And then it will use our authentication service send password reset function with the email, result.email. We got access to that field. And let's try this. Unable to validate email address. Yeah, well, that's legit. And also I don't have the account anyway, but it's showing an error, so everything is cool. If I had an email, I would probably get that email, but I don't, so I'm not getting it. And now we can use exactly the same thing for the magic link. Because again, get a magic link is now opening this alert with the same message, email, and the handler that now simply uses a different function, sign in with email. Again, this is our hello. This is our sign in with OTP, and this will give us an email. Actually, this means I should be able to get this email. Let's see. This is interesting. Okay, for this, actually, I'm gonna open the debugging tools because I'm so excited. Get a magic link to Simon devtechtic.com. Please check your emails for further instructions. Great, this sounds good. Let's see. Oh yeah, there it is. Email from Supabase just arrived. Confirm your sign up, please. By the way, here's our little emote inside, the one we defined in the email template. I can now confirm my email. I want to copy that link because we're gonna have to talk about this a bit. So this brings us directly to Supabase. Auth version 1 verify. Then we have a query param to the token. So Supabase will simply verify this. And then we have a redirect to localhost. And that means we don't need to define any redirect URL or URI at this point, or change any kind of URLs inside the settings. All of this should work. So let's try this. I'm gonna click this. Yeah, it of course opens in, it did open in Arc here, but anyway, it worked. And it brought us to the groups page. Was this the intentional behavior? That's a good question. Yeah, I think it actually, yeah. Probably we should check the logs here in Arc. No. Set user on login page. Yeah, it probably, yeah, I guess it just did exactly what we wanted to. And we can also now confirm this by opening, I should have left this open, in our Supabase settings. So let's go to the table editor and we should see under users, we have a new user. And under authentication, we have a new user. So here's the user information from Magic Link. Of course, if you use Magic Link, you have like very limited information you could put into a users table, but you do have some information. That's pretty cool. That was nice. We got this to work. We got email link. We got Magic Link sign up. How long are we into this video? Let me check. We're 40 minutes. Well, we did this very like in detail, so we could have done this a lot faster. And we do have a cool login page. Hey, that's also something. Okay. I think at this point we could move on, or actually we should move on to our registration page. We're gonna do that page a little bit faster because it's completely the same. Okay, so I'm gonna put this to full mode to this. So register module, reactive forms module, so we can create a reactive form. HTML, CSS, TS, and let's go. For our register page, I'm actually just gonna bring this in because it's completely the same. So once again, you can find all of the code linked below the video. We once again have a credentials form, but this time I'm gonna add the validators for email and min length. We do have our functions to get the email and password. Now we have a create account, but it's again following the same scheme, like loading, calling authentication service with the value of our form, and then checking if we have an error to show an alert. If we do have a success, we're actually navigating back because this looks pretty cool if you're using the Ionic Nav controller. Sometimes I like to use that one, but we could of course also do it with the Angular router. That's what I wanted to say. Okay, TS page is fine as well, and again the UI for that page is completely the same like the UI for the login, just that we need less fields. So if I now go to create account, we see we have two inputs, email and password. Once again, losing the same stuff. ng submit create account now. We got the nodes in the error slot. For password, we could now, please give this some space. We could use these dedicated messages. So if it's required, we're gonna show please insert a password, and otherwise it changes to the min length warning. So this is a way you could check the different errors that a form might have. Yeah, we can just also change this to invalid. It doesn't really matter too much. What does matter is the UI. So we're gonna copy over the UI as well here. to make this the same UI, and then we got a seamless experience. Create account, pushes that page, and then it pops back. Nice, that looks good. Okay, I'm gonna create an account now. I'm gonna use a different email at gmail.com and a super secure password to create my account. It says, please confirm your email now. Did I get an email? Yep, there it is. Please confirm your sign up made. Nice, this is once again exactly the message. And now I'm gonna copy that link. I'm clever, I'm learning, because it otherwise would again open Arc. So let's try it in here. Yeah, was a lot going on, but why actually? Who's routing? And it just said user, current user, next. Login page, and then a login page strikes here. Yeah. We probably won't see that again, that behavior. But can we go back? Goodness. Okay, yeah, we do get a user on login all the time. Why do we get that log twice? Is this like a React thing? like use effect is now called twice here. Said user, got user on login, got user on login. But it feels like the page is created twice or something. I don't know. If you gotta fix this, leave a comment below the video and let me know what I did wrong. For now, we're gonna move on because we really wanna build that cool groups page now. And for that groups page, what we also want is to interact with Supabase a bit more. Like we did some kind of interaction so far, but the real interaction of tables, we haven't done that. So let's see, under services, we got the data service. Let's start with a few definitions. First of all, we got the names for our databases, the groups and the messages. I like to keep them here because otherwise we're gonna have a typo. I'm gonna surely have a typo at some point. Yeah, please for the entire file, because I do have these fields in the database, and Angular or ESLint constantly complains about this. So I definitely want to disable this. Now we need the same beginning as we did before. We need a Supabase client using our environment key and URL. And with that in place, we can write the first function. So on the groups page, what we do want to in the beginning is to get all groups, and we want to do we need async? Actually, yeah, we probably need. We need to create a group with a title. So what's easier? I don't know. Both are pretty easy because both can use the Supabase client, Supabase from. And now we need to put in the table, or actually the table name. So from our groups database, we want to select everything. And I'm gonna be crazy. I'm gonna add a then block. No, I'm actually not. Was trolling you. Let's go to the groups page, and on that groups page, how do we load this on the groups page actually? Let's keep groups as an empty array, and then we need a bunch of imports for the constructor. We do need the authentication service, the data service, alert, loading, nav, and router for some kind of navigation. I actually do really like to use the Ion view will enter lifecycle for some stuff. So I'm gonna use this for setting the groups. So I'm gonna call await this.data get groups, and then we can hopefully, will this work with my logging? Yeah, that actually works. Nice. You complain. What are you complaining? Is not assignable. Yeah, that's the problem. So this currently returns a Postgres filter builder, whatever. But I'm gonna convert the data to data dot something. I think data. Because if we do it like this, I should probably call this result. That sounds better. In that cases, yep, it works better. So we get a log with 0 elements. No wonder we haven't added anything. But to create a group, we can use, well, we can kind of use the same setup, but we should create a new object up front. So let's call this new group. And for that group, we remember this is our table. The groups table, it requires a title, a creator. We don't need to set the timestamp. Actually, just a title and the creator. So the title is the title, and the creator is. We could use this from our authentication package. I just want to show you the other way. The other way would be to call await this dot Supabase auth get user. And then at some point we need another bracket, I think. Yeah, then we can use data user ID. So again, this looks a bit clumsy. It would work, but we could also use it from our own auth service. I just want to show you that it's possible in both ways. So then from the groups DB, we want to insert something. We probably want to insert our new group. And I don't want the then block, but what I want is, I want to get that result after adding it. Or do I want? Actually, yeah, I do want it. So in new versions, it's not automatically coming. In previous versions of Supabase, I think with the version 1 client, you automatically got the result after an insert, which can actually lead to problems with the row level security. So now you need to explicitly say if you want to select the result. And because this is just one thing, we can also say single, which automatically unwraps the result for us. Cool. This is all we need for the groups page. So let's move over to the groups page. Because on that page, what we want is we want a function to create a group. Do we want anything else? I don't think. Yeah, probably we want to have like a sign out. This can already call like this authentication service sign out. We do have that. And we want to... we can enter that page as an unauthenticated user. So we probably also want a way to go back to the sign in. So let's call this open login. This will just use the nav controller, navigate back to /. Okay. Let's now also open the HTML and tweak that a bit. Of course, we definitely need the color primary here now to make this a cool green header. At the same time, I'm gonna call this super chat groups, and we need ion buttons in the end slot. So we need a button to sign out. Ion button, click, sign out, and we only want to display this to authenticated users. So we're gonna have to figure that out in a second. Let's add just an ion icon name. Log out outline. I always confuse this sign out and log out. Slot icon only. Okay, that looks good. We got the sign out up here. But yeah, we can do the sign out. And then I can go here, and then I want to have the sign in appear here. So we should keep track of the user on this page. Let's do this. User equals this dot auth service get current users. We're just gonna keep an observable here. And so we can go here and say ng if user async. Yeah, that's not how you spell async. Actually, in this case, yeah, right. But for the other button, we want like if not the user, if this is false. So if this is false, we're gonna show sign open login. That's what we call this. We're gonna say sign in. Yes, better. Do we want to use strong as well? I feel like we should. I feel like we should use strong more often. I haven't used it that much, but since I discovered it, I found it pretty cool. But how, like this? It doesn't look strong to me, does it? Wouldn't say this looks strong in the header. Probably it's not working in all the slots. Anyway, for our content, we can use a fab button. Let's use vertical. Vertical is, this is the horizontal, vertical bottom. I do have these problems, like with some things. For example, with a number of a month. If you say like the month 9, I'm like, what is this? August is, I think, 8. So I don't know. Let me know if you also have problems with like the most easiest things on earth. I'm really like not an idiot or something, but I just can't. For some, I don't know. Anyway, it was a little discussion about a different topic. Of course, what we want is we only want that fab button to appear for authenticated users, which in our case we were not. So in this case, we shouldn't see it. If I go back to sign in and sign in, yeah, I didn't. I created an account with a different thing, so let's add my other email in here, the at gmail.com. So that one should, yeah, work better. Okay, within the Ion Fab, we still need an Ion Fab button, because this is the actual button. And this one we'll call create group. And Ion icon name equals at. Do we need slot as well? I don't know exactly if the fab button has a slot. Nope, it doesn't. Yep, better. I fear that my head right now is covering this, but on your page you should see a fab button down there. Nothing really fancy you're missing out. If I hit this, nothing happens. Did we? Oh, we haven't implemented that function. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's do this. Create group should be pretty easy. In fact, what we're gonna do is we're gonna reuse our alert logic once again. So we're gonna put in an alert controller, header, message, inputs. I'm gonna open this meanwhile, so it looks like this. Enter name for your group. If you're using a public preview of this, note that all groups are in public. So then we got the input, and within the handler, we can create a loading once again. You hit the function from our service to create a new group. And if we do have a new group, and this is important, or that's the reason why we were using select single in here, so we do get back the new result, we can then load the new groups. Actually, this wouldn't be completely necessary, but more importantly, we can move into the new group, and that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna put a lock in here as well for the new group, and then let's see what happens. So Simon's dev group, create group, and we're on a group. We do have an ID 1, that's cool. We have a log for group data, Simon's dev group. That looks good. Let's confirm this in Supabase. Groups. Oh yeah, we do have that group. There we go. Nice, Simon's dev group. This is my creator ID, so this links now to my creator. But we're gonna see a little problem now. Let me hit save. And I actually don't want to be on the groups, I want to be here. We now get back an array of groups that look like this. Created at creator ID tile. But if you also wanted to display the creator, you would have a problem, because this is just the ID of that creator. So in order to show the information, we need to include this in our query. Also, I'm gonna move a lock bit away. We can keep that other one. That's pretty cool. So we don't want to just select star, which is everything from the groups DB. We want to select, okay, we want to specifically select the title because we want to display it. We want to get the ID, and we want from the users table resolve the information of the creator field. So this is a bit challenging. This field on the groups table is called creator, and it will now get the information from the users table, which is referenced by that field. And now we can also say what we want, actually not this, but we want only the email from the creator. And if I hit save and reload, we now see that user information is resolved to the actual email. So this is how you can query data with foreign keys from other tables. And with that in place, we are done for today. No, we're not done. We now want to display that little list here. So above the fab button, we're gonna include this. Let's do an ion list. This is like the most basic way of doing things. ng for let group of groups. We could also have a skeleton. We could have like whatever we want at this place. But we're gonna stick to the basics. So the router link will bring us for every group to the next page, which is just group.id. And then we're gonna say ion label group. Why don't I get group completion? Then we have like a typings. What did we do? Message. Oh, we got the interface for a message. And we could have an interface for a group as well. Yeah. This is left open for the reader, for the person who's watching this video, which is you. And I'm gonna say by group dot, what's it now? Group creator, now group dot users. Yeah, that's like, I don't know if you can cast the field inside that SQL query to something else because it looks horrible this way. Now it's group dot users email. Let's see, this should work, right? Simon's dev group, nice. And we're also gonna say this is a button. Then we'll get this little arrow here. If we do it, yeah, if we inspect it here on a mobile device preview. Otherwise, we can also see this. Nice, is this new? I don't know. No, don't think so. Okay, cool. We can click this and it brings us to groups 1. That's right, let's do another group. Supabase tester. Create that group, and it's group number 2, and we do have it as well in here. Nice. That's nice progress. We can do one more thing. We can log out and we can start without account, and we see we don't have the fab button, and I can actually go to messages. This should be prevented. We're gonna prevent this behavior with a guard later. I'm gonna leave it like it is for now, because then we can also check that our row level security actually works. Because if in the end, yeah, that makes sense. If we're gonna see, that's gonna be funny. That's gonna be funny. But anyway, we're gonna focus now on the messages page. So messages page, come to me, TS, HTML, CSS, everything. This is like the intro to the Syntax FM podcast. Node modules, come in, the hastiest and tastiest treats of West Boss and Barracuda. Yeah, I really like that. They're great. But also check out our podcast, the All the Code podcast. Definitely something you want to subscribe to. Every week, 2 episodes of the All the Code podcast of Simon and Simon. Okay. By the way, we were Simon B. He's Simon B, and he's British, and I'm Simon G, and I'm from Germany. This is pretty cool. This is like how you can make sure you remember our name. Anyway, we kind of derailed a bit here. Let's build that chat page. To build that chat page, let's first of all touch our service. Yeah, here is the authentication service. In fact, it's not the authentication service we need. It's the data service we need, because we arrive on a groups page with just an ID and a dream for that page. Now, first of all, step number one is to get the information for that group simply by an ID. And we're gonna go through these functions a bit faster because actually it's not really that hard, since the Supabase client package is really easy to use. So if we wanna get the group information by ID, we're gonna select from our group, again, using our syntax to select the specific fields and resolve the information of the creator. And of course, we have a match query here since we only want the one specific group. And then we got our transformation to get the rest. Now, what we need as well is a function to interact with the messages table. So we need to add messages to that table and we need to get the messages for a group. Adding a message, there was two things at once, is the same like we did before to the group table. Just create an instance or an object and then insert this into the database. I'm also not gonna handling the return value. I'm not really interested in the result of the new message since we're gonna handle this with real time. However, when we load that page, we don't really we can have real time, but we also need the historic messages. So when we load that page, the groups page, we will also get the latest 25 probably group messages from the table, selecting all the information, resolving the user who created that message, and matching, of course, the group ID. We don't want any random messages. We want the messages of one specific group. And everything else is the same. And now we come to, not yet. We come to the real-time functionality. For real-time, we're gonna introduce another variable here. We're gonna call this private real-time channel, real-time channel type. And we're gonna initialize this actually down under here. So we're gonna call this listen to group. I couldn't figure out a better name. Let me know if you have an idea for a better name. So let's just start with the Supabase syntax. So the Supabase syntax is this.realtime channel. No, actually we want to assign it equals this.supabase.channel. And we want the channel name in this case is public messages. We really just want to listen to the changes of our messages table. And we can now react to these on something. So on specific type, in our case, I only want the Postgres changes. And now I also need to specify or can specify a filter. So event, I actually want, let's just say, give me all events on the schema. On the schema public and the table messages. Otherwise, we could get other events, but of course I only want events on the messages table because this is also the only one that has a real-time enabled. And then we're not done here. I think after this block we do have the callback. Yes, so let's call this async payload, and then we can do something. Okay, the problem is, how do we get the information that we get in here? Payload, this happens at some point when a new message is added to the group. How do we get this back in a cool way to the actual groups page, or in the most easiest way? Yes, we could also just have this logic on the groups page, but not really cool. Instead, what we can do is the following. We're gonna say, are we here at the right place? Yeah. We're gonna subscribe to this. This is in fact required anyway, otherwise we wouldn't get any kind of message here. And then we're gonna add our own subject up here. I'm gonna call this changes, new subject. Oh, welcome, whatever that was. I sometimes get that noise. I haven't figured out what it is. I really don't know. Like Slack or something? I don't know. And once we get some changes here, we're gonna call pretty much like changes next, let's for now use payload. We're gonna actually change this later, but let's think of this like this. And then we return changes.asObservable. So it's just an observable and nothing we can change from the outside. And we have covered the real time and got a nice observable for the page to listen to. Observable, type unknown. Yeah, we could change this, but that's cool. If we do it like this, we need to make sure that we close the real-time channel. So let's add a little block to unsubscribe for group changes, which we call if we leave the page. In this case, we're gonna remove this real-time channel. Okay, this is, I think actually it's enough in terms of functionality. So we can go to the messages page and get started. We need now a few imports here. So we need the activated route to get the ID param. And then we need the data and authentication for all the other funny things that we want to do. Let's give this, come on, do whatever you want, just make it snap. Okay, and on init, we're gonna do a few things. Oh, come on. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, no, I know what's wrong. Okay, so we're gonna grab the group ID. Strings must use single quote, yeah. With that group ID, we can query the information. So let's set this to our, oh, we haven't set a group, right? Okay, let's define a few fields up here. So we have a group, we have our messages, we have the current user ID, and we have the message text for a new message. So group ID, oh no, the group is now the general information. This data.get group by ID, group ID. Await, yeah, no problem. We can easily fix this. And we can already say in our title here, color, of course, primary green, and then group dot, probably like this, title. Nice, that already works great. Now we just need a back button, ion back button default, slot start, it should go to slash groups by default, Simon's dev group, and Supabase tester. Nice, this works so good, so good. Oh, we're not signed in. Well, yeah, we're gonna figure this out later. I said we're gonna fix this in the end. I hope I don't forget about this. Please, please. Okay, to get our current user ID, we can now use our function. Finally, this auth service get current user ID. Once we load that page, then we can populate the messages by loading them. This data get group messages. Oh yeah, we should probably pass in the group ID as well. And then we can listen to the changes. Listen to group ID, and subscribe. And for now, we're gonna just say log got new message. Shouldn't be hard to handle this, but for now, we're gonna keep it like it is. We probably now need a way to actually write a message. Yeah, that's a fair point. So let's say async send message. Await this dot. Oh, there are so many errors in that line. Let's just redo this. This line add group message. The group ID is this dot group dot ID, because at that point we should really have a group. And the text is this dot message text. And once we're done with this, we can also set our message text back to an empty string. And important, let's add the ng on destroy here and call this dot data unsubscribe group changes. So let's even put a lock in here, destroy, to make sure that we really unsubscribe. ng on yeah, well, yeah, implements on destroy. You're happy now? Yes, you are. So I think if we now leave that page, yeah, we see the destroy message. That's what we wanted to see. Cool. We can remove this and we can already add our message. Well, let's start at the bottom. I'm gonna bring in a little footer element like this. So this is a little row, and I'm covering this once again great with my head. And a row with a little input here, a text area actually. However, we should give this some additional styling to make this a decent looking UI. I think at this point, yeah, I should probably just, where's my face? It should end here, I feel like. We don't really need to see this, right? It's not really interesting up there. Might be interesting. We should give this a decent styling. So I'm not gonna do everything by hand now. I'm just gonna bring this in from our code because we're quite long into this video already. So again, if you followed until here, you can find the code on GitHub. We're gonna set the ion content to a little pattern. I picked a little pattern for you. I'm sure you're gonna like this. So let me add this to the assets folder. You're gonna understand that pattern. Let's hit save and you're gonna see. Is the pattern familiar to you? I guess so. And now we have this message input with a little border, so it definitely looks a bit better. It's a bit small here, but should work. Anyway, this is just about a few styling values, really nothing fancy in it besides the pattern. I think we can send that message, right? We should be able to, like, this is calling send message. This will add the group message. Let's give it a try. My first message. I'm so excited. Oh yeah, what's this? Cannot read property ID of null. Oh yeah, this is good. Yeah, nice. We're not authenticated, so we of course can't get the user ID here. Can I do it this way? I don't know if this actually works, but it should definitely fail again. Cannot read property of null reading ID. Oh yeah, of null reading ID. Let's try. Okay, we get an error. That's cool. Let's see. Can we figure out what we get back as an error here? Maybe let's do this a bit bigger for a second. User internal server error. Okay, internal server is yeah, actually this. Nice. New row violates row level security policy for table messages because we simply don't have we're not a user yet. So let's do this. Let's sign in and try again. Sign in. My first message. I'm gonna kill this. It worked. And also, did we got the groups, got user, set user. Where is my log for the messages? I didn't receive any log in here. We're gonna have to talk about that in a second. For now, let's check. Yes, we do have a new message. That looks perfectly fine. However, our real-time fun was not triggered. Why is the group ID in there and we're not really using this? I feel like I made a little mistake at some point. On changes. Yeah, well, we can match the group ID in the payload as well, but I don't see any payload here. Test. Am I listening to group? This is I'm subscribed to this on public messages on Postgres changes. I want all events on the messages table, and I do have my handler here. Basically, I'm actually quite fine with that. Let's see. Oh no, it works. We probably confused it with our login logout stuff. Anyway, that's cool. because now I can show you that I probably want to zoom in a bit more. The payload here has the new element. The new element is cool. It has all the information. However, we once again see the problem with the user ID. So that means we need to do two things. We should first of all check if the group ID actually matches. And second, we should resolve the user ID. And we can do this. There's no problem. What we need to do is simply checking if payload.new and payload.new as message, because otherwise we will not be able to access the group ID and TypeScript will complain, is equal to our group ID. We need to add the plus in here. I made that mistake before, but group ID is really a number. So if you compare number and string, you got a problem. But if this is the case, we're gonna get the message ID, which is payload.new.id. And again, property ID does not exist on type. So we're gonna cast this as, can I do it as message? Yeah, that should work. And what we do then is we make a new request, because this is so cool. A new request to the messages database, just like we do when we get all the group messages here, to get this one specific message. It feels a bit like overkill, but it's the only way with realtime to actually query this information if you want to resolve like the user ID to a real user. And once we done this, we can call changes next with that message. Okay, that's better now. So let's see, test. I hope I'm not my face above. Oh, this is the payload, and this is now what we get back on the actual chat screen. And we see we got the text and we got the real user information. And with that in place, we're now finally able to pretty much finish the application, right? I think we should be good. So let's close this. And on the messages page, do we actually? We can. Let's see. Can we already lock our messages? So here we got 4 messages. Oh, now I'm covering this again. 4 messages that we can display. Cool. Let's do this. We only need to be careful. These messages all come from my account. I should probably have like another one. Let's try. I'm just gonna create another one. Oh, I do have the other account, right? I did before with the magic link stuff. Didactic.com. If I get a magic link, I should be able to do this. So let's try. I'm gonna copy this because I'm smart. Okay, so I can now go to my dev group from Simon's second account. And then we're gonna see. It's gonna be funny. But first of all, we should actually display the messages. So therefore we need to go to our HTML, and I'm gonna bring in another little snippet because it's actually pretty easy. What we need is we need to iterate our messages. So let message of messages, and we're gonna add to Ion content class Ion padding. So if the message user ID is not our own ID, we're gonna use a call of the size 10, which we see right here, but and display the message text and the date time. If it's our own message ID, we're gonna add an offset of 2, which makes it move to the right-hand side, just like this. So the green messages are our own messages now, and we display them. And actually, this is exactly what we see. So here the green is right, and here it's like this. So test sending this. We're not adding the messages yet. Oh yeah, good catch. Good catch. Well, that should be pretty easy. And let's go here. Yeah, we're just logging out that we got a new message. So instead of locking this this dot messages push the new message. Let's see. Another test. Nice, it works. It just works. I really like once you hit that place where everything works, it feels so good. I know there are a few things still missing, but this already feels pretty good. What I did as well, by the way, is oh, this puts it, yo, I'm not preserving the lines. Well, yeah, we can fix this. Or you can do this. I just want to show you, I could probably do this already. If we have a lot of messages in the chat view, it's pretty cool to zoom or scroll to the bottom in the beginning. And we can do this by accessing our Ion content as a view child, then just scrolling after like a little delay. So accessing Ion content as a view child is easy, just like this. And then let's use the ng after view init. So after view init, because after view init, because otherwise Ion content is not yet initialized. So let's add ng after view init, and after a little timeout. So this was my little fix. I'm just gonna use like 300, which like loading the messages and displaying them. I'm gonna call this dot content scroll to bottom with like a little duration. And by the way, we can also use this behavior when we got a new message. So let's see. That was exactly what I wanted. So it opens the page and then loads. You can also load like 200, and also if I do something like this, it will also scroll there almost magically. Okay, I think we pretty much covered everything that we need. Yeah, if I now sign out and go without an account, I can go here. Thing number one, I can't see the messages because I have no right to read them. That's pretty cool. That's what I wanted to show you. So this was the whole reason why I didn't protect that page in the beginning. But of course, we don't want unauthenticated users to have access. So now we go into our guard and implement that guard. In fact, let me bring this in. I think probably you've seen this before. So how can we do this? Well, it's pretty easy in the guard. Inside the CanActivate, we can define whether a user is allowed or not to access a page. And we get our current user observable. And we first of all filter out that null value. So that was the whole point of initializing the behavior subject with null, but we could probably also have a subject. Then we take this result one time, otherwise the observable doesn't complete and you don't really get a log message. And then we check if the user is authenticated, we give access. Otherwise, we display a little toast that the user is not allowed and bring the user back to the groups page, which is still a public page. Now we just need to include this in the app routing. And we only want to apply this to our groups page here. And we can say CanActivate, please use the auth guard. And now we should see immediately a change here. And that is, we're not allowed, and you should get this. You're not allowed to access this site. And now the UI here is protected as well. But again, the real security happens on the row level security where we protect the database, because this can be faked somehow and users still access the page. So you need to make sure you have the right rules in place that really protect your page at the server level. So to recap, we pretty much got everything we want. We got registration, we got a login, we got magic links, we got a chat, we got real-time functionality, we got everything we want. But there's one more thing, and that is magic links for native apps. Because the problem right now is, can I copy this? Yeah. If I do get like if I use the application as a native Ionic Capacitor application, iOS or Android on my device, and I select, please give me a magic link. What happens is that I receive an email, I go to the email client on my device, and I get an email like this. It says probably localhost, I think it also says like capacitor maybe, but anyway, it's an HTTP URL, and this won't open our application. This will open the native browser, but then the session is lost. And how do we get this information from the magic link, the token, the verification to that native app? And the answer is a custom URL scheme. But don't fear, this is actually easier done than said. Really, it's that easy. Let me show you. Can we please, Simon, can we please come? Yeah, thanks. Nice. Okay, let's begin by running an Ionic build, just to make sure all the web assets for our project are built, and then we can add the native platforms for iOS first, and then also Android. So Ionic cap add iOS adds the iOS folder to our application, and I can run the same for Android. Yeah, nice. Oh. It's the first time I'm spelling it right. Okay, so what we want is that we open our application in a different way. A custom URL scheme pretty much looks like this. My app, whatever. So for example, I think you can open like Instagram directly with a link like this, and you can define your own scheme for your own application. And we're gonna just do this, and then we pass that scheme to the redirect URL. To configure this for native applications, simply go for iOS to iOS app info plist, and no, I still don't want anything for that, and add another entry to our dict here with CF bundle URL types. This is the key, and then it has an array. Once again, a dict with a key, CF bundle URL schemes, and then I called my super chat. So that means in the end, I should be able to open my app with super chat like this. But you could also use whatever you want. Just make sure you're using it just like this in all the places. Then we also can or need to do this for Android. So for Android, you first go into Android source main resources values strings. It actually already defines a custom URL scheme. That's interesting. I'm gonna call this super chat instead, and I'm going to the Android manifest now, to the intent filter, and I'm gonna add another intent filter that looks like this. Default, browsable, and then it uses the Android scheme with the value of our custom URL scheme. This is how you do it for Android. So now we just need to do a few more things to piece all of this together. So let's close the native files. Our app can be opened with that custom URL scheme now. We just need to tell Supabase to please use this. So let's go to our authentication service, sign in with email. Gonna comment this out, and I'm gonna say const redirect to if is platform capacitor, because on the web everything works fine. I actually don't want to touch the web behavior. So if the platform is capacitor, I'm gonna use super chat /login. You could also just go directly to a page, and well, you have to resolve that information somehow, so it actually doesn't matter if you say login or anything in here. In the other case, we're gonna use the current location origin /groups, which means we get back like localhost /groups. So this is the redirect URL we would get on the web. And then we can use this for the function here. And next to email, we can have an options object. So I thought this was removed, but it wasn't. Email redirect to. And this is how we fix this. Additionally, so it's a little bit tricky. You probably also want to look into like and the Twilio one-time password stuff, or yeah, that could also be good with phone number authentication, but this is a way to make this really convenient for mobile devices. We can open our application with that link in the end. However, Supabase wasn't getting the right session. So I added another little function here to set our session based on an, I don't want this for the entire file. Based on an access token and refresh token, you can manually set the session. And I'm using that function. So actually, I have an example here. This will make it easier because now within the app component, we can define what we do. Like we want to set up a listener here and make sure you call this here, this.setup listener. And within the listener, I'm going to use the app package from Capacitor, and I'm going to call add listener app URL open. In that case, we get data, which is of the type URL open listener event. And there's actually not too much in it. Like you can put a login here, opened with data. And when we're gonna see on a native device, this like data has URL and a bit of iOS stuff. But most importantly, the URL. So we can now get this URL. Let me actually bring this in because I don't want to make a typo. The URL that we get, not the one in the email, but when you click on the email that it redirects to inside the app will look something like this. Superchat//login, because this is our redirect part, and this is what Supabase adds. They add access token. Access token expires in and then refresh token. Token type, blah, blah, blah. So we want to extract the access token and the refresh token from that URL. And we can do this just like this with a little bit of pop and split. Yeah, we could probably do this cooler, but this works fine. Now that we got the two tokens, we can use our auth service, and we also want the private router, since we need to manually do this, and we finally also need the ng zone to run something in this event here. Private router. Oh, come on. Thanks. Okay. So once we got the two tokens, we set our session. This will make sure that the user is authenticated, and then we can just do the same thing we do on that happens on the web automatically. Like on the web, it immediately goes to the groups page. With this deep link into our application, we now manually handle that behavior by calling navigate by URL /groups, or you could have like a different group even in the URL, in like if you're using push notifications, but we're not really talking about push today. Replace URL true. Okay, I think this is enough. So let's run Ionic cap build iOS. I would be careful with live reload. If you're using live reload, your application is served from a different host, so that makes it really, I think it's, in that case, it's not really giving you the right result. So if you want to test this behavior, you should really run a native build, and then from Xcode or Android. Oh, come on. That's a joke. From Xcode or Android Studio, you need to run this. Thanks also. Now I can reposition this. Such a fun. Anyway, here is the app. I want to run this on my device. I need signing, and I'm gonna hit this. Let's open Reflector and hopefully mirror my iPhone, so we can then see all the different steps that happen. One more thing is actually missing, and this is what we need to do inside of Supabase. So we need to go to Authentication now finally. And on this page, we want a redirect URL. Right. So now is the time to add a redirect URL, and we need to pass in 2 stars to allow everything. If we don't do this, Supabase is not allowed to do a redirect to this custom scheme, which it usually also doesn't understand. So this is what we need. Come on, this is once again not working. So can I just do like, I don't want to mess this up. I'm gonna quickly fix my broadcasting, and then we can access this on a device. All right, here's the app on my device. So let's say, no, not forgot password, get magic link. Simon at devdectech.com. Get me a magic link, please. Okay, please check your emails. So I'm gonna check my emails. Okay, I'm gonna hit login here from my client. It opens the browser, but it already tells me wants to open the application. So let's open the application and we are signed in. This is really magic. This is like the definition of a magic link. And I can now chat, I get the messages, everything works because now I do have a user session here on my device. Otherwise, the magic link stuff wouldn't work correctly. I added the inspect tool quickly. So I can even show you the app was open with Super Chat login, exactly the one, the information we had. Then it sets the user with the access token and refresh token, and we're just a regular user at that point in our application. And you can do the same for Android. I've just shown you the preview for iOS. And please, after all the setup we did in here, can remove this. Please don't forget to add the redirect URL. I did this a few times and then it won't open your application. So make sure otherwise that you can even open your application just like this. If you put this into a text document or a contact and then click it, it should open your application. Otherwise the deep link or the custom app scheme isn't working. So try to make sure all parts of this are working, and then you can have email magic link on a device, and of course a pretty cool Supabase real-time application with all sorts of authentication. All right, and that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this rather long tutorial, but I wanted to show all the required steps and everything that you need with Supabase, like defining the SQL stuff and tables really in detail. So hopefully this gave you an impression of how and why you should use Supabase. I personally used it in a lot of my own projects and really love it. I'm using it for the new banana project as well. I definitely think Supabase is a great choice. Again, if you got any questions, let me know below the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get notified about all the upcoming videos in the future. And you can find all the code on GitHub to this app as well. Play around with it, enter your own Supabase project. Make sure you define the tables in your Supabase project, and then you're ready to use this client. Hope you give that thumbs up. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will hopefully catch you inside the next video. So until then, happy coding, Simon.